Hey, today we're back on MiniMx because I want to show you what I think is your best option right now if you want to put yourself into AI video clips. I'm talking about their subject reference feature, which in theory lets you generate clips that look a lot like you from a single reference image. This technology isn't perfect yet, but I've come up with 3 things you can do that will make your results a lot more reliable. And the first thing is starting with a good quality reference image, which can be a selfie you take off your phone, and I'll show you how to make that happen. Number 2, you need to be writing detailed prompts that are compatible with that reference image. And I've made a custom GPT that does this part for you. Lastly, number 3 is choosing scenes where your face is going to be as visible and prominent as you can make it for as much of the clip as possible. This is just because it makes a huge difference in how much the likeness from the generated clip looks like you. If you're too far away or turned away, it'll start looking like somebody else. To prepare you to do this yourself, I'm going to go over step by step how to take a reference and go from a basic idea into a nice series of clips that really match your likeness. But because everyone's face is different, I've also AI generated 2 more kind of selfie style images so we can see how well this workflow does with different skin colors and body types. So let's get started by talking about how to take your selfie to optimize it as a reference for your video model. You want even lighting, you want a plain background, you want a flattering angle, not too close. Hold your phone as far away from your face as you can. Bring your phone above your eye line, zoom in so you can see all the detail of your face, and smile so the AI can see what your teeth look like. This looks just about perfect. And now we have a reference image that we can bring over as a reference character on this subject reference tab on MiniMx. We'll click confirm, and now it's uploaded. Taking a selfie like this is going to be a lot better than trying to crop yourself out of some random photo where the lighting isn't as good. You end up looking blurry or whatever the problem might be. This is especially true because MiniMx only lets you use one reference, so that reference had better show off your face extremely well. Otherwise, MiniMx won't be able to replicate what you look like when it starts generating the clips. So now we need to write amazing prompts. I made a whole video talking about how challenging this can be and how nice it is that my GPT does it for you. For this method today, we're going to be dragging our reference image into ChatGPT just like we did into MiniMx. And like a conversation, we're going to explain what our idea is. I would like to generate 5 clips of this person where he is a jungle explorer, but also the host of a documentary. Could you create some scenes where he shows off and explains the wonders of nature? And like I said earlier, I want these scenes to be generated where his face is as visible as possible. So I'll tell that to my ChatGPT. Stay close up to his face and try to capture his expression with great detail. With a description like this, my GPT will do a good job turning this reference image into detailed prompts that describe me as a character, but also has a lot of detail and should really show off the quality that MiniMx is able to create when you have that much detail in the prompt. So I'll paste this first one in here, and I'll actually go through and generate all 5 of these prompts, and I'll cut back when all of these are finished up because video models take a while. I don't want you to have to sit through the entire thing. So I'll time travel in a bit when these are done. And we're back. For all 5 of these, I left this prompt enhancer off because I think my GPT writes better prompts than the automatic prompt enhancer does. But let's take a look at these results and see how much we like them. This one isn't bad. I think as we talk about prominence, my face isn't as much in the scene as we might want, and so the video model didn't focus on getting it totally right. I think it's shifting in size just a little bit. Some of the other results are a little bit better, but it asked me to kind of be eating this fruit, and AI video and eating doesn't necessarily work the best. Let's look at the next one. Here, this one is cool because There is so much going on. I like the way that the leaves move in the background and that the water is coming down. I'm not sure this is how my hair should look while it gets wet, but obviously we're doing things to change our original reference image quite a bit. I didn't have wet hair in the reference, and asking it to sort of exist in this rainforest with water piling down leads to a result that isn't perfect, but as far as what my face looks like is pretty believable. I think my hair is thinning out more than my nice luscious hair really is in real life, but a pretty good result here. The third one, I really like this. It's a little bit far away, and while it's farther away, let's come sort of back to like this region. It doesn't look that much like me. You can sort of see why I talk about the prominence being so important in this, where there's not enough pixels for the video model to get my face right, and little distortions make a big difference when it's a higher percentage of the face. Whereas as I come closer, it starts to look better and more like me. Whereas when it's over here, it's like, wow, that actually looks a lot like my face and a lot like my reference. Seeing that result sort of improve as we get to the close-up shot makes a big difference. Fourth is another great result. The prompt that ChatGPT wrote asked for a little bit more complexity, where the bird isn't on screen, we only hear it, and it didn't really write it correctly, but this is a very good likeness and a very interesting scene, and to be able to put me in a jungle like this, I wouldn't be able to do in almost any other way. So I think this is an awesome result. You'll notice I'm like talking in all of these as we look at this fifth image. I did ask to be like a documentary host. The fact that I'm explaining the rare orchid I'm supposed to be holding makes sense for the type of videos I asked for. This wet hair, again, doesn't look like how my hair might when it gets wet. It doesn't curl that much, but there's no way the video model would have known that, and I don't mind this result at all either. Now, I didn't give ChatGPT very much to go on for these 5 scenes it created for me. Like anything in AI, the more you give it, the more you get out, but I found these were creative suggestions based on a pretty simple goal I had in mind, but you can absolutely get very specific with what you tell ChatGPT. Can I get a new scene? I would like the same person to be a dad pushing his kid on a swing. Now this is going to be hard for the video model to pull off because I'm using the subject reference to generate 2 people, and also swings have a lot of physics going on, so if this prompt is able to describe that well enough, I'm hoping we get something very impressive. With the same reference character put in here, let's try generating this and see what happens. But I want to take you through this prompt so you can understand how the GPT approaches organizing its information so the video model knows everything it needs to know about getting your video correct. So first, it talks about the scene detail. This should be a relatively simple description of where the video clip takes place. Next is the main subject, right? So this is the father gently pushing his child, right? So everything is talking in terms of the reference we have in place. And so even though there's a child in this scene, MiniMx shouldn't get confused because it's the father, his child, his face, watching the kid, tussles his hair, his smile grows wider with each push. The subject is so much the focus of the scene, which is going to be really important in getting a good result. Next, it talks about the style. It describes it as a cinematic family film aesthetics shot with this lens and a warm, intimate feel. These are really useful tags in establishing style, and I think the GPT did well writing those. Next, we'll look at what it said for camera movement. So not only in a video do you have sort of a subject and a background, all of those things can also move, as well as the framing can move. So we describe how the camera moves to keep the child's movement slightly blurred and focus on our subject's face. Again, this is going to be a good way to make sure our subject is the primary focus and what the video model spends the most time generating. We also have scene motion. Things in the background can move too. Leaves gently rustle, the swing moves back and forth rhythmically. And then subject motion. What is the subject actually doing? He laughs, he's pushing the swing and leans slightly in to speak to his child. His eyes glisten with love as he watches them soar through the air, taking in the beautiful moment. A very detailed clip. I talked for a while. This isn't quite done generating, so I'll cut right back when this is done too, and we'll look at the result. Oh my goodness. I think we really pushed MiniMx to its limits with this one. You can tell from sort of the JPEG crunch that it really just needs more diffusion time to fix some of the problems with this generation, but The physics worked out really well. I actually like the construction of the swing, which I don't always from AI generation, and it does really look like I'm taking action to push it. It's not pulling me around, and it really seems to have interpreted my likeness very, very well. I like the hair hanging down. That happens to me. I don't think it was happening in the reference, but let's see if we can make that go. Yeah. We're the same now. This looks really impressive for a challenging video for an AI video model, and this was one shot. We could generate a few more, but this result was very, very good. I'll just click this a couple more times, and we can look at these later. But I did want to show you what this process does with those other subjects I planned on trying. So if we drag him into here and ask for a scene where this man is going for a jog in a suburban park during the winter, we can see side by side the reference that we've created with what MiniMx will generate off of this prompt and subject reference. So I'll drag this over here, replace the subject reference with this man, confirm, and generate this image. We could say, can you make this woman a mail carrier bringing mail to a beautiful house? I don't even need to fix the spelling. ChatGPT will figure it out, and we can see the prompt it generates for us in, again, this very nice code block that I can copy right into MiniMx. And it really is just that easy. When you have a reference image and ChatGPT working for you, we can confirm these, and we can see how well it turns this man and this woman and myself into even more scenes. Another one of these just finished up. Clearly, it's not getting confused with the reference here. Obviously, I don't think this is as good a generation. Let's see this one here. This one's better, but we're still getting the sort of JPEG artifacts. It's a challenging prompt for these models. I think this one was a really lucky roll as far as the variance that we might have gotten, but cool results out of these. When these two images are done, I'll hop right back and show off those as well. We are still waiting on one more generation, but I just had to show you this last swinging video that turned out really impressive. I think we got lucky on the variance with this one. This still looks a lot like me. The kid looks very distinct, but also like he could be my son. And sort of the geometry of this swing set might not be perfect, but I really love the atmosphere, and I think it nails a lot of things about the prompt that maybe the other results didn't quite do as well on. I just thought this was worth showing off. We're still waiting for one more generation to finish up, but I'll be right back. And here we are. Rather than just opening these up, let me pull up the video and the reference image. You can really see them side by side. I think this is a pretty good representation of what you can expect from kind of an average reference image and an average prompt written by my GPT, where you asked for high prominence, that close-up view of their face and expression. I think both of their faces look quite a bit like the face of the reference. I think it's a charitable interpretation of the body type, not perfect. I think he's a little stronger and buffer than he comes across in the reference image compared to the video, where he looks very, very fit. Obviously, he's jogging, and the woman here is maybe a little skinnier than she might have looked in the actual reference image. I'm not sure it's a perfect interpretation, but there's not a lot to go off of from the reference image, and really focusing in on her face, I think the likeness is pretty good. You'll probably find something similar if you upload pictures of yourself. It'll do a pretty good job kind of recreating what you look like in the details of your face. If you make sure to have ChatGPT describe you in enough detail, it can probably get you closer, but you're gonna run into challenges like this, where the AI is sort of making things up in a direction that isn't exactly perfect. But just to recap a little bit, I want to visually show you how big a difference those 3 tips I gave at the beginning will make for your video clips. What I just went over and did is I took another selfie that's a much worse reference. You can see how busy the background is and how small my face is on the image. It's not symmetrical, and it'll be hard for the video model to understand what I look like. So even if I went back to a prompt that turned out really well and recreated this, but replaced the reference character with that new image I took, like this, our resulting clip would turn out much, much worse. I'll click generate and show you that right now. And look, there is so much wrong with this clip. The obvious things you can see are my hair is curly, the shape of my face doesn't really look like my face anymore, the nose and lips and even skin complexion just feels off, but also because my reference was so busy and I didn't take an image where my background was clear, I think the creature that's been added into the scene instead of the beautiful bird we got last time is now this odd-looking turtle creature with red eyes that aren't symmetrical on its face either. And I think it's trying to incorporate things from my background into the scene somehow, and it doesn't know how to do it, leading to this really wonky final frame with a turtle that doesn't look like anything at all. A very stark contrast, this beautiful scene with a bird and obviously a face that looks so much like mine. I hope the value of a good, clear reference is apparent to you. I also want to talk about how important prominence is going to be. A close-up face, and I'll show these side by side, a close-up face is going to match your likeness so much better than one that happens to be far away in the generated clip. This is a result I've seen time and time again. If you want to generate yourself in video clips, it's worth coming up with ideas where your face is going to be visible. And I know that comes at a sacrifice. Not every clip is going to be possible, but if you want good results, this is what you're going to have to do. There was one more tip I gave you, and we saw how critical this is too. You need to be writing your detailed prompts, or letting ChatGPT write them for you, in a way that's compatible with your reference. We saw that with the wet hair, right? My reference image didn't have wet hair. We wrote a prompt that was incompatible with that reference image, and it made up hair that didn't make sense. This is the reason why you can't just take this prompt for a mail carrier, recreate it, and then replace out the reference character with a good reference of yourself, because this prompt describes a video about a woman being a mail carrier in front of this space, and this uniform and her warm and friendly expression will confuse the model and create a clip that doesn't look like me, but instead some mix between me and this description of a person that is based on an incompatibility between those two ideas. And seeing this isn't a good likeness of me, and it's also not a good gender swap. It's just a misinterpretation of how to use this reference information and apply it to this text because they don't match up with each other. This is great detail, and it can create a good clip, but the detail needs to match with the reference as well. I also want to make sure it's obvious that this detail is important. A very simple prompt and a subject reference, well, this young man fighting a dragon is certainly not fighting a dragon. And even with MiniMx's prompt enhancer, we end up with me maybe fighting a dragon, but it looks more like I'm doing deformed AI kung fu. Even with a challenging scene, a good prompt can make a big difference in the direction you can go. And here, while the prominence is not perfect, the scene is much more reasonable as far as what fighting a dragon might look and feel like. I have a whole video talking about how this prompt format works and how my custom GPT creates it. And if you want to understand that with a little bit more detail, I highly recommend you watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.